Imagine your child's birthday turning into a nightmare. My daughter called me from the market, crying, trapped, surrounded by strangers who were screaming at her about family duty. What they didn't know, I had the power to end them publicly. And when I struck back, I made sure the entire church saw the truth they had been hiding for years. If you've ever been gaslighted, cornered, or disrespected by people who thought they could get away with it, this story is for you. Stick around because the ending, it's one of the most satisfying acts of revenge you'll ever hear. And hey, if you believe in justice the way I do, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories just like this. I'm a 46-year-old mom of 2 teenage daughters, 17 and 15. Last year, my ex-husband died in an accident. Normally, you'd think that would be the end of our drama. But no, his death cracked open the ugliest secrets of his life, secrets my daughters were forced to discover. He had been cheating on me for years. Worse, he fathered 2 little boys with his affair partner. When both of them died in the accident, those kids were left behind, orphans. And somehow, in the twisted minds of my ex's parents, this was now our responsibility. My ex-in-laws, 78 and 80 years old, decided they wanted to live with us and take custody of my daughters. Yes, you heard that right. Custody of my daughters. We ended up in court over it, but I refused to let them step 1 foot into our home. My girls were grieving, they were traumatized, and the very last thing they needed was pressure from the same people who had supported my ex's betrayal. Now, let me tell you where the revenge story really begins. We live near this weekend market. Fresh produce, local meats, homemade chocolates. My youngest had just turned 15, and though her birthday party was planned for later, I wanted to give her something special. So I handed her some cash and said, "Go wild. Buy whatever sweets you want." It was supposed to be a carefree, joyful moment. But an hour later my phone rang, and it was my daughter sobbing. She whispered, "Mom, some women cornered me. They're saying horrible things." My heart dropped. I ran through that market like my life depended on it, my older daughter right behind me. And what did we find? 6 older women surrounding my crying 15-year-old, spitting venom at her about how she was unchristian, for refusing to spend time with her grandparents or for not wanting to be a good sister to the so-called orphan boys. The audacity! I pushed my way between them and my daughter. My voice was shaking, but I stood tall. I told my oldest, "Take your sister, pay for her things, and wait at the car." Then I turned back to face this self-righteous mob. Some of them I even recognized, from my ex-in-law's church. And the words they threw at me? They said I was worse than my daughter, that I was failing my duty, as a Christian wife, to obey my husband's parents. Can you imagine? My husband was dead, he cheated, and somehow I was still supposed to play the obedient wife. The yelling grew so loud that the market staff eventually asked us to leave. And as I walked back to my car, those women followed me, circling me like vultures, glaring, whispering prayers. My girls sat silently in the back seat, their eyes red from crying. That drive home was one of the hardest of my life. I wanted to protect them, but I also knew I couldn't let this go. That night, after my girls went to bed, I opened Facebook. And what did I see? My ex-mother-in-law had posted an epic, Oscar-worthy sob story in the church group. She claimed that my daughters and I had left them homeless, penniless, and unloved. That we were abandoning the babies of a surrogate. Yes, she twisted the truth and said my husband's mistress was just a surrogate because I couldn't have more children. And she claimed I rejected those boys because they were male. Disgusting doesn't even cover it. Now, here's the thing about their church. They can overlook a lot, but cheating? Oh no. That's their ultimate sin. And my ex's parents knew it. That's why they spun this elaborate surrogate lie, to protect his reputation. And that was their mistake. Because I had receipts. Every dirty, undeniable piece of evidence. And for the first time in months, I felt a spark of power. The very next day, I took the day off work. I marched into a print shop with a folder full of screenshots, emails, and photos. There were pictures of my ex making out with his mistress in our living room, text threads of their disgusting conversations, messages from his parents supporting the affair, and the crown jewel, messages where my ex-in-laws bullied my daughters, even calling them bastards and blaming them for their father's death, just 2 days after the accident. Can you imagine grown adults saying that to grieving teenagers? I didn't just print these out. I made them beautiful. High-quality paper, neatly organized, all tucked into personalized binders that looked exactly like the hymn packets the church used for services. And on the very first page, a full-color photo of my ex kissing his mistress, with the caption, "Ex-husband's love story." Their faces were crystal clear, undeniable. Sunday came. My hands were shaking as I carried those binders into the church, but I kept my head high. At the back, there was always a table stacked with hymn books for people who forgot theirs. I slipped my binders right in, blending them perfectly. And then I left. Quietly. Calmly. And I waited. Oh, the gossip mill exploded. Within hours, the Facebook group was on fire. Words so harsh the pastor himself had to step in to calm people down. My ex and his mistress were called every name under the sun, and his parents? They were exposed for enabling it all. My girls even received 2 apology letters, and I got a personal invitation to return to the church for support. The irony. And my ex-in-laws? They were humiliated. Shamed so badly they stopped showing their faces at church. My ex-mother-in-law made a desperate Facebook post about how no one cares for the elderly anymore, about how her great son would have protected her. Protected her. With what money? I was always the breadwinner. The hypocrisy was almost funny. They tried to smear us, they tried to corner my daughter, and in the end, their lies collapsed under the weight of their own cruelty. I didn't just defend my daughters, I gave them proof that no one could twist our story again. Revenge doesn't erase trauma. My daughters are still healing, still in therapy. But sometimes, shining a harsh light on the truth is the only way to stop people from rewriting your story. And when the people who hurt you finally face consequences, that's justice. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button. It really helps the channel. And I want to know, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen or heard about? Drop it in the comments. And of course, subscribe for more stories that prove karma always comes back around.